All right, it's 7 o'clock. Call this meeting to order with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's like everybody's microphone's on, everything looks green. Okay, roll call. Denise Peltonen is excused tonight. Oh, so.
You want me to do it?
If you would, that'd be great.
Okay, let's see.
Didn't even think of that.
I know.
Here. I saw something here. I don't know where it went to. Here.
Oh, thanks. Great. Okay. Randy Melnick.
Here.
Sadie Merchant. Here. Carl Robel.
Here.
Denise Peltonen is excused. Reen Stratton here. Keith.
Here. Okay, any changes to the meeting agenda? I have one. I'd like to add on 6B2 or 6BII, the Whitewater Township Code of Ethical Conduct and Governance Policy. I had it in the packet. I just didn't list it somewhere on here.
And I've got one clarification under 7B. We have a representative from Gordy Fraser here. They're really here to talk about site plan review process and the private road ordinance. So the bulk of it is on the site plan review process.
Any others? None heard. Did you get that, Kay? Okay. Do we have to have that roll call vote or just? Okay. All in favor of the two changes to the? Okay, motion. I make the motion to change the two meeting agenda points, 6BII and 7B.
I second the motion. Stratton.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carried. All right. Any declaration of conflict or interest? Heard to any of the agenda items? None heard. Move on. All right. 3. Okay, public comment. For public comment, there are 2 opportunities. The first will be now and the second will be at the end of the meeting. Public comment in a house, any person shall be permitted to address the meeting of the PC. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following rules and procedures. Comment shall be directed to the PC with questions directed to the chair. Any person wishing to address the PC shall speak from the lectern. Persons may address the PC on matters that are relevant to township planning and zoning issues. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding the time needed to answer a PC member's question. Public comment should be limited to 3 minutes per person. To avoid unscheduled debates, the PC generally will not comment or respond to public comment other than to ask a question. Silence or non-response from the PC should not be interpreted as disinterest. Is there anybody that'd like to speak?
You need the John Henry here. Mike Jacobson, Skill Point Road. I attended a little bit of the meeting last night. I don't remember exactly what you call it, but it started out as the ROS committee.
Yeah.
And what I watched, I thought it was a pretty good rapport between the group of people you put together. So That, I found that very encouraging. But there's a couple little things I'd like to mention. I would appreciate it, and I think it's your obligation to say the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of that meeting. The, that group of people is there at the request of the Planning Commission. This is information the Planning Commission is going to use. So they are really doing business for the Planning Commission. They're doing business in a government building for the people. Let's not forget what we're doing. We do it every other meeting. Seems appropriate. I really am strongly, adamantly inclined to say it should be done. And then secondly, I caught in the like the notice to it or whatever I read, let me know it was here. It said that there would be no public comment. And I didn't say it in the meeting, so I don't know if there was any report. But I think, and I don't know how long the meeting lasts, okay, but I think if the public shows up and sits out through the whole meeting, they should at least have a chance to say a couple words at the end of the meeting. I mean, this is the public you're trying to serve. They're interested. They've listened to the whole thing. Why can't they give their 2 cents, make a suggestion, encourage something they heard, discourage something they heard? I mean, that's what we're looking for, is as much input as we can get. Why would we discourage that? So I hope you would please do something about that. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, none seen. We're moving on. No public hearings tonight. Approval of the minutes of 10-1 of 2025. Attached. Anybody have any changes or?
I just had one typo. It's on page 5 of our packet. It refers to Mr. Merchant. As opposed to.
I didn't even catch that.
Yes. It's special meeting, it's under board action, right below special meeting minutes, 8/26/25.
Oh,
And just above
there it
regular
is.
meeting minutes.
Sorry. Sorry, I forgive you.
Didn't find anything else. Anybody else?
I didn't even notice that.
Just have a couple on
Okay.
page 2 of the minutes or page 5 of the packet. Under the site plan review, case 2025-04, that I think that second sentence, it says planning commission held extensive discussion regarding site plan review requirements and the proposed site plan. I think that was really intended to be that the planning commission held extensive discussion regarding site plan requirements during the rezoning deliberations. There was talk about what AIS would do when a site plan came forward. I'm not sure the sentence makes sense. Held extensive discussion regarding site plan review and the proposed site plan. I guess it. Although I guess I'm looking at that more closely and I could see it standing that way. I guess, do you remember that conversation? Do you think it's written properly?
I thought we talked quite a bit about
Okay.
that.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that then, I'm fine with leaving it the way it is.
Yeah.
And then secondly, under down farther, it says zoning administrator Graber reviewed various zoning reports to clarify topics. The last sentence says Romer Utility specifically requested no berms.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Okay, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph from the bottom of that section.
Which page is that?
What's that?
Which page is it?
It's on
Oh.
page
Page 5.
2
Romer Utilities.
or page 5 of the packet.
For N1 properties.
It would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess fifth paragraph up from the bottom of the page.
And what is the question about that?
The words there say Romer utility.
Oh, it's not, it's,
Yeah, I don't remember that. What is,
I don't know who Romer utility is or what that refers to.
right?
it was the, what's that property called right next to them?
Yeah, I,
It was them,
property to to the west of them,
yes.
right?
What business is that?
Oh, right, yes.
Yes.
I remember that now.
It was them. I don't know why it says Romer Utility.
I don't think Roman Utilities, then probably the name should be in there.
Yeah, or say the property owner to the west.
That'd be
Specifically
fine.
requested no berms. That's my recollection of that.
Mhm.
Change it to the property owner to the west then.
Yes,
Okay.
that's all I have.
That's it? I'll make a motion that we approve the uh, draft meeting minutes for 10 October 1, 2025, with the 2 corrections of both on page 5, I believe, right?
Mhm.
I'll second that, Melnick.
Okay. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Right. We had no correspondence. Okay, the zoning administrator report is attached. Deb would not be here tonight. Anybody have any questions about that? That was the, so the property at Island Lake for the garage on the
Mhm.
bottom? I think that was right.
Mhm.
All right. No comments. We'll move on. All right, you see, there should be an attachment on page,
Well,
page 12, yes. Okay, on the desk there, you should see a, kind of just a checklist here. What I put down beside you there. It is, at the suggestion of, the zoning administrator, which I kind of agree with. I'd like us to think about instituting a preliminary conference prior to scheduling of a hearing. It'd be 1 to 2 PC members, maybe the fire chief and the client, if they wanted to participate. This will be to go over and check the list to find any issues and declare whether this is ready to go before the planning commission or not. And what I thought it would be nice is, as we do this, we could take turns. Because it's very good. You learn a lot just by going through it, check it on the lists and stuff. So I'm opening that up for discussion.
Well, this is great. I guess this also connects with what Gordy Fraser is going to talk to us about in terms
Okay.
of their process. And so this dovetails in well with that. And Travis is here to walk through the process with us and help us to understand a bit better about how the site plan process should work. So
Okay,
maybe we could put this aside till we hear
yes.
what,
Well, I just want to, see what the commission's,
well, we definitely
Opinion is
need
on it.
to tighten up our process, especially in more complicated site
Right.
plans where, I mean, site plans come in all shapes and sizes
Right.
and we're headed for larger ones that require
Okay.
more attention.
so we'll kind of move forward to this, but we'll listen to what you have to say about it first. The bylaws. Bylaws section 3D, it says that public hearings that involve the zoning amendment are to be set in motion of the PC. I think a preliminary conference would take care of this. And I'm not sure if this is actually necessary in the bylaws itself. I don't believe a motion by the PC is appropriate and is inconsistent with Article 21 under hearings, which does not mention that.
Right, so for whatever reason, the bylaws were fairly specific about how public hearings are scheduled. And there's two categories, one being a zoning ordinance text amendment or a map amendment. And then another category for public hearings for special use considerations. A public hearing is required for a special use. It's not required for just a site plan though. So there's a distinction between that in our ordinance. If it's just a site plan and it doesn't involve a special use, then it doesn't require a public hearing on our ordinance. But so I think what Keith was bringing up is the fact that what we have in our bylaws is it needs to be improved here. The language, I guess the question is how to do that. Do we want to hold to that statement that the planning commission has to have a motion for a public hearing on an amendment? Or just be silent on that? So before any amendment or change to this was discussed, we thought we should talk about it.
I actually like the idea of the preliminary conference deciding whether or not it should go to a public hearing and not necessarily the full board for the full commission. I don't know what anybody else thinks about that, but I think in Article 21, it kind of leaves the zoning administrator to set that up.
And the reason for that is just for efficiency. If somebody comes in and they have a special use request, everything's complete, it seems like a delay to wait for the next planning commission meeting for the planning commission to set the public hearing when in fact, the zoning administrator could do that and potentially save some time.
Mhm.
Yep.
So if we've met before, it would, if we did this before, we'll be able to go right to public hearing in the next meeting, you're saying, instead of come here, decide to put public, okay.
So my thought is a public or a preliminary conference with one or two commission members could kind of make that decision, I think, and with the zoning administrator to push that through instead of waiting for it to come to the board.
I don't know that that's a good idea. I don't know that one or two commissioners before the meeting, I always be in a position that they're making judgments or maybe saying, we maybe want to approve it for making sure that all the documentation that we will need at the public hearing or to possibly make a decision, but it's like talking to people beforehand, one or two people. I don't think that's right. I think if it's to go through a checklist, say, here's everything we're gonna need at the public hearing. And of course, we all don't necessarily know that, but we're getting better. Because then you say, well, wait a minute, when I went to this preliminary hearing, you told me this. Well, then when we get in front of all of us, and it's totally different. So I think from simply reviewing the case that, because not everything necessarily on this list or any list is going to be appropriate for everything or needed, but we have to make sure we have all the information that the board, the planning commission will need to review at the public hearing. This person will come in prepared, hear his pitch, the public can hear it. But I think we'd get in trouble. But as long as you limit it to going over what's going to be required, but don't be telling the people how you think the commission is going to vote. That's where we get in trouble. That's what they tell us about talking to the people.
I don't think that's what the purpose of this is for.
I'm confused. Could you restate?
Yeah, the
What we're
purpose,
discussing?
the purpose of, well, right now, we're actually discussing whether or not in the bylaws, we should have these move forward, zoning amendments move forward, specifically zoning amendments,
Right?
move forward by a motion of the PC.
So it's, this doesn't have anything to do with it, right?
No.
Okay.
And we're not, that wouldn't be okaying it. It would just be another eye on it besides just the zoning administrator. It would be a PC member. The two of them or three of them, whoever ends up coming to it, could just look at it and say, yes, we'll make sure that the commission will be ready for this. And, move this forward instead of waiting for that to happen. Waiting for us to come and vote on it. And then the next month it comes up.
So you're not that, in that pre-meeting, you're not deciding whether there's going to be a public hearing. Or is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what we are saying.
Oh. Then I think I agree with Carol. I don't,
Because in the Article 21, it does not set for that. It doesn't talk about the commission.
No, it doesn't. Another issue that we've really never addressed completely, and I know other communities have dealt with this, is exactly when do you have a public hearing? If an applicant comes forward with a rezoning or a text change or whatever they're proposing, it's, do you want to get public input at the very beginning of that process or at the end of that process after the planning commission has had a chance to review it, discuss it? There's two schools of thought on that. One is that you get the public comment on what's proposed early so that can weigh into the planning commission's deliberation on it. The other is that, hey, the planning commission wants to investigate this on its own. Maybe there's changes to it, maybe not. And then we'll have a public hearing when it's closer to being acceptable or a finished product. So we've not really had a lot of those, at least in my time here, 3 or 4 years.
I think, doesn't 21 specifically say it before? The public hearing is, it is.
Oh, the hearing has to happen before, but there's a process. I mean, you don't always act on the request that meeting. In fact,
Right.
some places don't intentionally. So that's something we haven't really addressed and hadn't had the sequence of amendments coming forward. There will be, of course, now, be a lot more amendments coming forward.
I think, what month is it that we're supposed to review the bylaws? Is that January or?
January.
January. So maybe you guys could think about this, come up with some ideas, decide what we want to do. And we could put this in with the January bylaws.
I don't think we
Update.
need a decision tonight. It's just introducing this topic that our bylaws maybe aren't aligned with what we think
Okay.
we should be doing.
So we'll move this to January with the bylaw review.
Keith, could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Since you were talking about the preliminary conference process and then jump to bylaws, that discussion you just had, is that for the new business bylaws review, or is that going to be something different on the agenda? Just for my notes purposes, item 8A.
8A.
oh,
I just wondered if you inadvertently
Oh, yes.
jumped to a
We're
different
gonna,
topic.
no, it's separate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on. Let's see. I think that was the last thing I had on that one. Sorry, I gotta go back and look on. Yes, okay. All right. Code of conduct. So,
What page you on?
what's that?
What page are you on?
12.
This is,
Still on 5.
no, this is Conduit is on page
Oh, I lied.
My packet is 14.
Yeah, it's 14.
14.
Yeah.
So they wanted, I don't know how often this has been done in the past, but this is supposed to be annual. So everybody's supposed to sign this once a year. And let's get it to Wendy.
Yeah, I think she gave in an email a couple different options, whether you want to sign it electronically or whether you want to come into her office to sign it.
I actually have a few extra copies here if somebody wants to do it
You
today.
did get an email.
Yeah, there were, okay. I think it was late today that it came through. I might be,
I didn't get it either.
No,
okay.
You can have that. if
I
you-
printed one,
Oh, it's actually in your packet too.
or right, it's in the packet.
So if you guys could get those in,
Do you know, do we need to sign it in front of her?
does not say that there's a witness on it, so
Okay.
I already signed mine. Does anybody have any questions about that? Moving on. You have anything at this point?
No,
Sure.
I'll wait until the ROWG.
Randy?
Okay, so the township board is meeting next week, and we know we have some vacancies on the planning commission. I believe at least one vacancy will be filled, is coming up for the upcoming meeting. I'm not sure where Linda is on the rest of that. But that'll help get us back to full strength. We mentioned the ethics policy. There is also, the agenda is still coming together for the town board meeting, but we have also been talking about a request for proposals for some architectural services to help with the capital improvements plan and potentially looking at facilities in the township, the township hall, the new fire station, or fixing the old fire station, or whatever we're going to do. But that does fall into the lap of the ROSWG at some point in terms of the capital improvements planning. So the thinking was that we should get a firm lined up to help us with those conversations. So that'll be an issue likely talked about at the agenda. The township board next week, assuming it doesn't get bumped off because other things are on there, but we've been working on an RFQ for that. I think that's primarily it. There's no second meeting of the month or second meeting this month because of the holiday. That's it.
Okay.
I have a question. Randy, you used RFP and RFQ for my purposes. Which one should I
RFQ.
use? RFQ, thanks.
Okay, Carl, do you have anything?
No.
No? Okay. All right, let's move on to zoning ordinance, Giffel Webster update.
All right, we're gonna add Stephanie here to the Zoom meeting. And Stephanie, if you can hear us, we're promoting you to a panelist now. You'll have to click that on your end. Here's Stephanie now in the meeting. Go ahead and unmute there, Stephanie.
Hi, everybody.
While
Oop, There's,
we're on this subject, I believe everybody that we talked to could do the 24th for a special meeting for Giffords Webster. Correct on that?
Mhm.
I think that's where we ended up.
Okay,
So,
so,
sorry, a special meeting on the 24th then?
yep,
Do we have a time?
believe it was gonna be what, 6? Can we do 6?
Sure, I can.
Green?
Mhm.
Carl? Can you do 6? What about you?
Yeah,
6?
yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll set that special meeting for November 24th at 6 PM.
November 24th. Did you say this?
6 PM for the Giffel Webster review.
Yes, and that will
Catch
be,
that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good.
You see November or December 24th?
November.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Fine.
I'm gonna make sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Be
go
very
ahead, thank you.
dedicated.
Okay.
That'd be a very dedicated bunch to agree to meet on December 24th. So, good to be back with you all. Thanks for having me. I do have your packet. Did you receive our memos, or are you hanging on to those for distribution for the special meeting?
Right, we didn't get them in time for the packet.
Okay, I didn't know
So-
if they were distributed late or not, but that's fine. I can just provide a brief overview of what I can give you a preview, and then we can dive into deeper detail at the later November special meeting. So, Andy and I took a look at the four articles, the two on your development process, so standards, site plans, and special land uses. Excuse me. We also looked at your PUD ordinance in Article 7 and the COPUD in Article 6. And basically, after reading through those again, looking more in depth, and after our discussion at last month's meeting, we determined a couple of things. So this is the roadmap that we would like to lay out. Your development processes, those are mostly intact, or what we're proposing changes, nothing drastic. There are the tweaks and updates that we talked about at the last meeting, plus we agree with you that a pre-application meeting is a good step to add, and so we have included that in the process part of those articles. We did a little, we suggest some reorganizing, in particular with Article 13, moving some of the uses, the specific standards related to specific uses into their own sections. But other than that, the bones and the structure is mostly the same. It's more of the minor tweaks that we talked about previously. The current the current PUD section appears to have the content of a residential cluster option. Your PUD is really focused on residential uses, and so after reading through that in conjunction with your condominium development section and your COPUD section, we really think that a lot of what's in the PUD section should be moved to your condominium section, since that's really focused on residential and cluster development. So you'll see in the packet, we recommend moving that section in particular, and we've provided some additional standards related to cluster developments that we've seen work pretty well in other communities similar to Whitewater Township. So once we moved those out of the PUD, that left the PUD a little bit more open. The PUD is a great tool. Lots of communities use it for various things. And as I mentioned, your PUD was really limited just to residential uses. And so we'd like to talk with you about any interest in opening up the PUD to include commercial uses as well. Again, just to use the tool more robustly, as kind of was intended to be used when it was first allowed here in the state, and give the township some more options give the township and developers more options on ways that they can come together to meet goals in tricky spaces, or to elevate projects that come to the township. And then finally, your COPUD section was this really interesting mix of kind of a PUD and kind of an overlay. It had the makings of an overlay because it had these boundaries that kind of it wasn't a district, right? It was an overlay. So that's really the overlay piece, but then all the content in it was really more kind of in line with a traditional PUD. So we looked at that and we said, okay, what what should we do with this? So we suggest making that section, that tool and opportunity, a true overlay. So taking out the PUD portion of it, and the overlay would be focused on potentially the same area, potentially expanding into the village area. So we can discuss that at our later meeting. But it would really be focused on specific uses you want to see in that area, and then aesthetics associated with those uses. So whether that be lighting or landscaping, building design, we can talk about all those things and how those, how we could write standards so that your corridor along M72 is really how you want it to be. And it wouldn't be, the overlay would not be optional. Anyone who develops in the overlay would be held to these standards, as opposed to right now where the COPUD is more of an option. The nice thing about this is that anyone developing could still use the PUD option, and then also the overlay would come into play. So you'll see when you get our memos, it's quite a bit of material. It's about 120 pages. So just prepare yourself for that. We have the memo is linked, so you hopefully can move through it a little bit more easily. You'll see on each page, or excuse me, at the beginning of each amendment, we have an introduction. It has background on the amendment. It includes an overview of the list of changes made. So if you don't like to read through the red line, you can just kind of read the bulleted points of what we're suggesting to change. And then we also have a section on questions for consideration. We'd appreciate if you could take some time to review those and to think about them ahead of our meeting, so that you kind of come with with some ideas to bring to the table and are ready for discussion. And then the memos each include red line text and then a clean copy. So if you don't want to read through all the red line, you can skip to the end and just see the clean copy of what we're proposing. And that may be easier. Again, there's a lot going on in some of these. So that's really the overview that I have for you. Do you have any questions at this point? I know you haven't seen the memos, but questions or suggestions for the next meeting?
Yeah, for the next meeting, the 24th, do we already have that information, or is that something else you'll provide us?
The township has all of our information already. I'm happy to resend it, but we did send it previously.
No, I was just wondering if there was going to be anything other than that.
Oh,
So what
No,
we have for the meeting is what we have already.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Thank you.
Couple of questions, Stephanie. I guess I wanted to ask you to describe the Zoning Enabling Act defines how PUDs can operate. And so I think as you were reviewing both the COPUD and the regular PUD, there was, I'm sure you looked at the confines of, or the limitations that communities live with in terms of having the way their PUD is structured. So it's not really an opportunity just to say whatever, wherever, and we'll just call it a PUD and have a good time with it. But it's there's really some constraints that the Zoning Enabling Act puts on communities that want to do a PUD in one form or another. So I think you've alluded to the fact that the COPUD is a strange animal, and we need to get out of that, I think, and you correctly identify that.
Yeah, and there are, as you probably know, are aware, there are several parcels that are currently zoned COPUD, and Andy and I took a look at what those are and those uses, and we can discuss in more detail, what would happen as we do these updates with those parcels, but we don't see a problem given the given the few number of parcels that are there and the uses that are there, that this amendment would cause any real issues or hardships, and they would be existing non-conforming anyway, but they would still mostly fit into these molds of kind of where we're going with the amendment work. In terms of the MZEA, there were some missing chunks in your PUD in terms of process, and we've updated or we proposed language to include what was missing from what was required for MZEA in terms of robust and legally bona fide PUD ordinance. But there is an art to writing these so that communities can balance the negotiation piece with what is allowed. So we added a qualifying criteria section, and that should help a lot with reviewing any proposals that come in so that you can say, yes, this meets our criteria and can be a PUD, or it really can't. And then you can move forward from there.
Just one other point too, I think the planning commission has heard about the cluster option for residential development, but I'm not sure it's front and center in everyone's mind, so we might need to back up to that for just a moment at the next meeting to describe how that process works and what the philosophy of that is.
Sure.
Any other questions for him? No, I guess we'll see you the 24th, right?
Great. Yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
I have just like
Yes.
not a question for them, but since the packet is so large, would it be possible for us to get printed copies?
Yeah. I can probably do that.
Yeah.
You want them before the meeting or? Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you looked at this packet? It came today, I think, and
Do you have it right?
wow.
Yeah,
It's funny, I don't.
It's large.
There you go. Yeah.
it's 115 pages because it's long because they give you the clean copy and the red line copy. So, and there's,
Yeah, I'd rather have a paper copy.
Yes.
than
I think
just-
so, in order
Right
to jot notes down and things like that.
Yeah, so,
it helps to do it in small chunks.
Right.
Read this.
Yeah, and I don't mind, making copies for everybody. That's fine. I just wanted to run it past you and make sure
yeah. I think it would be-
you obviously don't need one.
No, I printed
Full
it
day.
already, but
I just got it in an email.
I mean, it's possible, but some
Right.
time to really go through and make notes and.
Yeah.
Okay.
so I guess maybe one other question for Stephanie. Is there any particular way that you want the comments? Do you just want us to go through individually what comments we have, a markup thing, or is there just have an open discussion about whoever wants to go first, or?
We tend to focus more high level policy directional questions first. The development I think there's probably two buckets in two different ways we'll go about this. The development processes ones, the ones for Article 12 and 13, those are more minor changes and less rethinking these tools for the township. So I think those will probably be probably more minor changes. And we could probably just collect comments that you have, if there's some wording tweaks, we can probably just go through those pretty quickly. The other three, those are going to be some substantial changes, and so we want to make sure everyone's kind of headed in the right direction before we get into the nitty-gritty of even like some of the language around it. So I really see the next meeting being nitty-gritty on and wordsmithing the site plan review process and special land use stuff. And the other three articles will probably be more higher level kind of visioning for those three. And then Andy and I will probably come back to you with updated language at that point that can be further wordsmith. That's what I'm envisioning based on just kind of the types of changes we're proposing for the forum groups.
So you're looking for more policy level direction rather than saying, put a comma here?
Yeah, but I mean, we're happy to take those comments, and if you have those, I think we could easily collect those at the November 24th meeting and not take up too much meeting time with that.
Good idea.
Anything else on that? All right, we'll move on. Woody Frazier.
Okay. You know, introduce us a little bit here in
Yep.
terms of where this came from. So, since the last meeting, we had some more conversations about the site plan review process, and you remember that about a year ago, or maybe not quite that long, 9 months ago, we did a RFQ to ask firms to help us with site plan review processes. And knowing that there are some more substantial ones coming our way, we haven't had much in the last 6 months, but that's changing. It changed with AIS and will likely change with a few other ones coming. And so we asked Travis to join us here tonight to talk about their involvement in site plan review process, to talk about how the process should work, about checklists, about some of the things we alluded to with Deb's material. But you know, once you get to larger site plans, you introduce a lot of other issues into the complexity of the review. And we need to be sure that the process is in place and that we have checklists that we follow and process that we follow. And so with that, we'll let Travis tell us about what they're going to do for us when we get site plans, you know.
Good evening. I do have handouts.
Okay.
I know some people like paper copies. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Good evening. Quick introduction. As Randy mentioned, my name is Travis Munn with 40 Fraser. Quick background. On Gordy Fraser is, we've been in business in Traverse City since 1948. Have a lot of history here in the region. I personally have been on the development side in the civil engineering field for over 14 years. My primary focus was private development, but I do have some municipal experience. But Jennifer Graham, who is our director of engineering, and an engineer of record for a lot of the communities in the area, she's been doing it for over 20 years, has a vast amount of experience and knowledge on the municipal side of things. So she really kind of leads that department. Unfortunately, she was supposed to be here, but couldn't due to a conflict. So you get me. So we'll have some fun here, hopefully. And we were asked to present our findings, kind of run through the township's current process for site plan reviews for land use, and present that to the board here this evening. So that's what we're here to do. I have a quick PowerPoint presentation along with a couple other handouts that I gave you that we will walk through slide by slide. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. We're going on to the next slide here. So we're looking at just kind of a brief overview. A lot of you being on the Planning Commission are already familiar with zoning and a lot of the procedures, but so some of this might be redundant. But the purpose of zoning really is to establish a consistent and unified standard for development. And this is to ensure land use compatibility, protect property values, prevent and address any nuisances, prevent overcrowding and overuse of land, provide fair and consistent land development guidelines for everyone. Now, Whitewater Township, as you're aware, has a zoning ordinance. Was recently effective, the latest version in February of this year, in accordance with the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. And part of the act requires an ordinance that you define a site plan review procedure and requirements to be outlined in that zoning ordinance for not only the township, but any individuals submitting a site plan to follow. Compliance with the zoning ordinance is verified through the defined site plan review process, which is outlined in your ordinance, as I mentioned. And so basically, the site plan review process is your vehicle to verify that whatever's being submitted is compliant with your ordinance. So it's an important key, which is why they make it a part of the requirement of the act. So why is all this important, especially in Whitewater? So future development and growth of the area. Historically, Whitewater Township has been a small rural community with few larger developments. We all know that the area continues to grow. And so we're seeing local trends indicate that the region is continuing to expand, generating growth in surrounding areas, one being this community, along with a lot of smaller communities in the area. With this growth tends to produce larger, more complex developments requiring a more detailed review. And a key to this is getting ahead of that and making sure you have the procedures in place, which you actually do, and we'll get into some of that. But is to planning ahead and making sure you're following the proper procedures to make sure you're getting a quality site plan that you can review. So purpose of site plan reviews, again, is for ordinance compliance, consideration of public safety and services. So this would include, sharing the site plan with the fire department, for example, or emergency services to make sure development can provide those services. Verifying utilities or the need for future expansion of utilities in the area as a community starts to grow. It's also useful for review and vetting of details prior to construction to make sure you're getting to those small details that oftentimes are missed. So you want to be able to look at, again, serving utilities properly to the site, driveways in the right location, setbacks are met, and all those things that are outlined in your ordinance. You're really looking at those in the site plan review process. It's also attaching reasonable conditions related to the review standards and allowing the planning commission to make sound and informed decisions. With the enforcement aspect of this, the current zoning defines site plan review process in Article 12. And this is very consistent with what you already have outlined with many of the surrounding communities. I have a lot of experience working in Michigan and throughout the Midwest and many states, and I really have seen a very similar process throughout my experience in my career. Now, while I know this process may seem cumbersome, it really isn't. So it is consistent, and most people who are developing are really familiar with the process that you already have outlined. Requirements and procedures outlined in Article 12 pave the way for a complete and informed decision by the Planning Commission, and can also allow for incomplete submittals to easily be rejected or returned back to the applicant in avoiding making bad decisions by the Planning Commission. When it comes to decision time, the site plans are reviewed by the township. This is usually the first step, and we'll go through a flow chart here in a second, but it's usually reviewed by the township, zoning administrator, or a consultant, whatever the case may be, is kind of an initial step to make sure everything is in line. Then the Planning Commission would act on the site plan based on recommendations in compliance with the ordinance. And the Planning Commission has three options when it comes time to make a decision, and that is either approve as is, approve with conditions, or deny the application. And when you go to deny it, you have to supply reasons for that denial. So outlined in your ordinance, you have three options currently for site plan review. The first one is a pre-application conference, which is optional. It's a no-fee review. This is with the applicant, the zoning administrator, and up to 3 planning commission members. This is an informal review. Again, it's optional, no fee, but it is a good way to kick off the process for the applicant to maybe understand a little bit more of some of the zoning requirements, permits that may be necessary, the steps forward to get through the entire process and make it successful for everyone. So that's really something that should be encouraged.
You have 3 members together without
I think
Is
that's
it-
what our bylaws say is up to 3.
up to 3 without holding a
Oh,
meeting?
it's less than a quorum.
Less than the 4. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep, you're okay.
So the pre-application conference is even before the zoning administrator has done a review?
Yes. It would be a very limited site plan, very few details, just kind of, hey, I want to do this. Here's what I'm thinking. What do I need to do, to bring this to the planning commission? What would be the process and the permits needed? it's a very helpful tool and should be encouraged.
But it just surprised me that there wouldn't be, that the zoning administrator wouldn't have like checked to make sure that that the proposed, work is within the setbacks and all that sort of stuff before we're sitting in on the meeting.
This is an informal, not at a hearing like this.
Right,
This would be, up to 3 members if needed
right.
or requested. So this is where you would look at those sorts of things and say, you don't have enough land to do that. You don't have enough setbacks accounted for. Your building's too large, whatever it may be that's not compliant. Those are the types of things that you're going to look at very preliminarily. So you're kind of vetting some of those issues before you really put too much pen to paper.
So there'd still likely be some dialogue between the zoning administrator and an applicant about.
Before.
Yeah, before that, I would
Yeah.
think, just sort of like,
That's,
know,
that's
yeah,
that's
just
my question.
informal
Right.
dialogue, but then before you actually sitting down and talking about, all looking at a plan and saying, even if it's a cartoon, as I call them, where it's just squiggly lines and whatnot. But I'm sure Deb would have some conversation with them about, is it a permitted use in the district they want to do it? Is it, what's the general density? Just, is it something that shouldn't even get to the pre-application conference? If
Right.
if it's not allowed, then.
Right.
So with,
And that's what I'm questioning is because setbacks to me are such a basic,
Yeah, if they,
parameter. And so it seems like before they're, sitting down with all of us, that's something that she could be looking at.
sure,
with-
and they may need a variance before they'd even,
Right. Yeah.
get to that point,
Okay.
but.
so that would be a pre-step to this then.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of Deb's job is
Right.
answering questions about what, supplying this information, for
Mhm.
example, or just general parameters about what the zoning ordinance requires before you actually have a meeting.
Okay.
Right.
So the second step in the process is the preliminary site plan review. Again, this is not necessarily a requirement. This is where the zoning administrator would make a decision when the application comes in. Hopefully it's worked out in the pre-application conference, whether a preliminary meeting is required or not. But the preliminary site plan option is really intended, and at least my interpretation of your ordinance is for more complex projects, to give the applicant in the township another opportunity to discuss the project and maybe work out some details, ask them some more questions before they bring a final plan. And so again, this one can be waived by the zoning administrator. If someone wants to bring in a small project that maybe needs to come in front of planning commission for a site plan review, but it's not a complicated project, it can pass right past the preliminary review phase and go right to final. So that would be your zoning administrator's discretion to decide that based on what is submitted.
If I could, if.
Proposal and kind of outlined it, and we had some comments, things that we, thought they needed to address before they brought it formally to us, and I think that was pretty helpful.
One other thing with the preliminary plan review is that that's really to benefit the developer or the applicant in a sense that you don't want them to spend a lot of money on engineering and architecture when there's still basic questions in play, and then they spend more money, they get dug in, to what they have. And so preliminary can be a way of going forward with a measured amount of investment that the applicant's making. So it has benefits to the applicant.
But it's still formal in that we decide to approve with conditions, table or deny.
That's what confuses me.
Yeah.
Because both preliminary and final both say the same thing.
Right. So that's the way your ordinance is written currently. So it does spell that out. So you have the option at that point. I guess I would interpret that you can still approve with conditions, and that would maybe send it on to the final site plan review, where then maybe they would bring, so at the preliminary, it might not be, as Randy mentioned, a fully engineered plan yet. At the final, then you would look at those greater details that you'd see in that more advanced plan. So this is just my interpretation would be that this is saying it's ready to go on to the final review.
Okay, that makes,
We see enough that it's ready, or shouldn't happen. You know, maybe they skip the pre-application meeting and it gets to you and it says, this just isn't, you can't do this.
Okay, so then a vote to approve means that we're just approving it to go into the final site plan review?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
and
And I guess I would mention also, I mean, in the material that Giffords Webster provided us, it includes reviewing the site plan review requirements. So this is a good time to be looking at those requirements and seeing whether or not that still makes sense to us.
so the preliminary site plan review is in front of the full commission.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
There is an application fee with that. And what I've seen in my experience is that at this point, depending on the project, you know, this might be a time where you want to maybe involve a consultant, for example, of whatever nature, you know, whether it's a planner or an engineer to review technical aspects, you know, that could be incorporated into part of this process as well, you know, if the project requires it at that point, depending on the complexity. And that's typically handled through an escrow account. That's very common, where the applicant would pay the escrow fee that's established for a certain service, and then the consultant, whoever that might be, would review and provide comments and bill against that time.
Okay.
Which is a very common process. Moving on to the third and final step. Again, as you mentioned, it's very similar to the preliminary. It's just the more formal. And this is where, again, it's an application fee. And you go through the entire process here with the Planning Commission, and then they make a final decision on it.
So in the thing, I just need some clarifications on incomplete submittals shall be rejected. What does a rejection look like? Is it a vote to reject, or is it like, what does it look like?
We'll get into a flow chart here in just a second, but as this comes through the process, as an application comes through the process, the zoning administrator at that point should be reviewing the submittals and making sure that everything is there, you know, checking off all the boxes that
Okay.
X, Y, and Z are there. And so these should be rejected.
Okay, so it wouldn't even come before us necessarily, right?
It shouldn't really. I mean, now something may come up at a meeting. Somebody may not have thought about something and, you know, a good question is asked and we need to reject that. That just isn't going to work. So the next slide, I did in your packet provide a 11 by 17 of this, so it's a little bit easier to read. But this is a step-by-step flow chart that I put together that summarizes the process a little bit more in detail. And I think this really helps kind of paint the picture. So again, it's similar to the previous slide as far as the information provided, but you have the step one, which is the pre-application conference. And that looks, you know, like, as I mentioned before, you go to a very informal meeting with the zoning administrator at a minimum, up to 3 members of the commission. And then really out of that meeting should be 3 results. Either the site plan or the project doesn't require a site plan review. At that point, it can go right on to permits and construction. The next choice is the project is determined that it needs a site plan, preliminary site plan review. And so again, that would be for more complex projects that probably need some more discussion or some more detail from the Planning Commission at that point. And if that's the case, you go on to step 2, which is the preliminary site plan process, which we'll walk through. But if the zoning administrator decides in that pre-application meeting that it doesn't need a preliminary review, you can go right into step 3, go right into final review. So the step 2, again, may be waived by the zoning administrator. The next step down from that would be the applicant submits the preliminary site plan application and fee. And again, I kind of have a little offshoot there. If an escrow is needed, that can be secured at that time. And then once the application is submitted, the zoning administrator at that point should be reviewing the submittal and double checking to make sure it's a complete and accurate submittal and everything is there. And so I got a exclamation point there because I think this is a very key step in the entire process. And so one of the recommendations that I have, and was alluded to earlier in the meeting, is a checklist. So in your packet, I have a checklist as well. It's a 2-pager. It seems like a lot. It is a lot. But this isn't anything new. I pulled this basically word for word right from your ordinance. This is already in there. I just put it in a Word document to check off, to make sure these things are submitted with the application. And it's broken up into 2 sections, the upper section A, which is basic information, lower section B is more detailed information. And then there's 2 columns on the right. And up at the upper right-hand corner, you see PAC, and then the far right is PSP/FSP. So the PAC is the pre-application conference. So the items in that column are the ones that should likely be submitted with the pre-application conference. It's a limited list, just kind of some basic information, just to kind of start the conversation. And then on the right column, that should be all the items that would need to be included with your preliminary site plan or your final site plan review. And again, this is all in your ordinance already. This is nothing new. So the ordinances get long and are hard to follow sometimes. People miss these things a lot. This is a handy tool. And what I see a lot of communities do is take this and make this part of your application. So this should be with your application. And so when an applicant is filling out the form, they're filling out their site plan, they should be going through this list and saying, I got that, I got that, I got that. That way, when it comes to your zoning administrator, that one should be done. There should be an in-house double check as well.
Very nice.
Mhm.
And again, this is our ordinance as it's written now, and this is just another way of expressing what's already been required now. I think this was updated a few years ago, so this is what we have, and this is what we need to follow, or make changes. I mean, if there's things in here that don't seem to fit, or, now's the time to do that.
Yep. So at this point, assuming the checklist is being used and the review is being done, there's 2 options. Either the submittal is determined incomplete, is sent back to the applicant with a notation of what's missing, kind of starts that process over again. If the application is deemed sufficient and complete, then it goes on to the forwarded to staff. So the zoning administrator would do her formal review, or if you have a consultant on board, it would be shared with them to do their review and provide a comment letter. This is a good time also to share it with the fire department, emergency services, road commission, drain commissioner, health department, Eagle, whoever may need to look at that. It's a good time to start getting those groups incorporated in any of these reviews and provide good information back to the planning commission so they can make an informed decision. At that point, if the application appears to not be complete, or there's still some missing information, depending on the complexity of the project, can be rejected, sent back to the applicant for more information. Or if the zoning administrator feels that it's sufficient enough to go on to the planning commission, then it's sent on to you for your final review, and hopefully a decision's made at that point. So at that point, you should be getting a full, complete submittal that you're ready to start discussing and making actions on. And again, we go back to the 3 options for voting here: denial with reasons for the denial, approval with conditions. Assuming it gets approved, you go on to step 3, which is the exact same process, basically, except for when you get to the very end, approval with conditions, then you're on to your permits and starting construction. So that's a nice flow of your current process.
So 2 and 3 are identical?
They're basically step by step, the identical process. It just depends on the complexity of the project. If it's a simple
And so-
project and it doesn't need that preliminary, you go right on the final. You don't even mess with step 2.
Okay.
And again, that should be determined by the zoning administrator, either in the pre-application conference or when she gets that first submittal in, looking at it saying, this is a big development, it's very complex, it's going to take some time to discuss this, should go preliminary or can go right on to final.
Okay.
Couple points. So the administrator is administering this process. The decisions are at the planning commission as to whether or not to approve the site plan. And then secondly, can you allude to or tell us a little bit about what happens when other approval agencies are involved, like the health department or road commission? You know, where it's important for us to know where they are with the other approval mechanisms. For example, if there's septic systems being proposed as part of development, either houses or commercial, and then the health department's been contacted, but they haven't approved anything yet. I mean, and there could be changes to what the health department wants as far as leach fields or septic beds or whatever.
Sure.
So there's kind of a dance, I think, that goes on between county level authority and construction code as well.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, so it's, I would say at the planning commission level, it's fairly uncommon to have all your permits in hand already. I mean, you want to make sure, I put myself in the developer's shoes. If I'm putting all this effort into a site plan and bringing it to the planning commission, I don't want it to get denied and already have submitted for all my permits. So there is a dance there. So right now, the way your ordinance is written, it doesn't require any permits up front with the planning commission, but you can certainly make it a condition of the approval. You know, this is approved conditional on, you know, providing septic, well, road commission driveway permits, those sorts of things. Usually those are secured later on, but they can also be a request of the planning commission. They can be part of that conversation. You know, if it's a tricky situation, maybe with the driveway, you know, we don't want to act on this until we have something from the road commission saying that you're going to get a permit for this.
Or in terms of the health department moving the septic system around or leach fields or whatever, because site conditions are such that.
Exactly. And all ordinances have some leniency in there for changes that need to be made during construction. Now, those are set aside for small changes. You know, maybe you run into some bad soils and the leach field needs to be moved 5 feet. That's not a big deal
Right.
in most cases, but so there is some flexibility built in the ordinance for that. But major changes would also need to come back in front of the planning commission.
So, given that situation, we're pretty much always approving with conditions. If they need to, I mean, if they have to go, if the fire chief needs to look at the drawings or the road commission or whatever. Right?
Potentially. I wouldn't say always. You know, it happens occasionally where you run into issues with a permit where you need to move some things around. At that point, I do believe your ordinance has some flexibility in there for the zoning administrator to administratively approve some changes, depending on the complexity of it. So, you know, if something needs to shift a little bit because of a design change later on, a lot of times that can be approved administratively, or it needs to come back in front of the planning commission for approval.
Right. No, I understand that, but I mean, if we're saying that they don't have like their permit from the health department in hand yet,
Mhm.
which is understandable, then we're always gonna, in that
We
situation.
want to know that they're talking to the health
Mhm.
department
Yeah.
and that we're in the ballpark and they can likely approve something. And then if buildings move, then it's probably going to come back,
Mhm.
you know, because of that. So another good example would be the road commission approving a driveway, and there might be questions about site distance because there's some hills or curves or whatever that limit the site distance. So vehicles that were driving down the road don't have time to stop at the driveway. So, you know, then that requires sometimes some additional study to look at the speeds of the vehicles, stopping distances, all that. And so the road commission may say, yeah, this looks like it complies, but until we have a study, we don't know. So there's a question mark on something like that.
Mhm.
So
So we would approve with the condition that they get.
that the
approval
road
from
commission
road
approves the curb
commission.
cut where where they show it on the site plan.
And then it's up to the ZA to decide whether the change is large enough that it needs to come up.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's also language 1210 about zoning administrator approval of circumstances, so they're pretty narrow.
Right. Any other questions on that?
Oh, this is very nice.
Okay.
Yeah, super helpful.
So lastly, want to reconsider your time, so I'll wrap up here. So what can Gordy Fraser do for the township? So we really want to be a resource and a team member. So we have over 75 years of experience here in the community. And we're here just to ensure the process outlined in the ordinance is followed by utilizing township-specific checklists. And review the site plan for compliance with the ordinance, provide recommendations to the planning commission if needed, provide engineering reviews for private roads, stormwater drainage, site lighting, landscaping, et cetera. All that goes into a site plan review. And being an experienced resource for the township to rely on. We have plenty of staffing knowledge to complete the review in a timely and thorough manner. So thank you for your time and happy to answer any other questions you might have. And I know there's a question on the road ordinance that we can get to in a second.
Yes. I guess too, I would just mention oftentimes with larger projects, we would have circumstances where the applicant has hired a firm to do the plans. And that might be any number of firms that work on private developments. And so that having another firm that we can have look at the plans gets us into a better level, a more of an even footing when we're looking at, you know, drainage, for example, or landscaping or other requirements in there that they know what the ordinance says. They know whether it's provided or not. I mean, sometimes the applicant doesn't even know because they've just said, hey, go make Whitewater Township happy in terms of their ordinance. And so hopefully it's all there. Hopefully, you know, we can, and having Gordy Fraser help us review that is going to be helpful.
On the checklist, the 10, because the Peoples Webster brought this up as well, the 10 hard copies and 1 digital copy, what's your take on that?
I'm seeing that change as far as the number of plans you're saying in hard copies. See, a lot of communities don't want hard copies anymore.
Right.
Most want digital. Or they may want 1 or 2 copies, just to, you know, maybe spread out as a group and look at some point, but mostly digital.
Yeah, all of our packets are done digitally, so it's then
Right.
emailed and they're on the websites and so.
I do have a question about costs. I know our zoning administrator had requested some costs like an a la carte, you know, of what things would cost so that she could provide that to the citizens when they come forward with something like that.
Okay.
I don't know what's happened with that, but we haven't got a response back to that.
Yeah, we can do that for sure. Yeah. I think she did ask me early on about site plan review escrow fee. It would be the same what we charge for our stormwater reviews, which is $1,000 escrow to start.
Okay, if we could just get an idea
Yeah.
that way, if,
Absolutely.
you know, during this process, we could tell them what the cost would be involved and.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would look at a potential site plan and understand generally how much time and effort is going to be necessary for you to help the township through the site plan review process as opposed to that particular part of it. I know that in the past, there was one circumstance where you looked at just stormwater, which was helpful because stormwater is an element that we're supposed to look at in site plans. And we don't have a stormwater ordinance like many communities do.
Right.
So, but I think the need here is an overarching assistance with site plan reviews, not a la carte kind of process. In my mind, anyway.
Okay. I don't know. I just know that's something she requested and I don't know how often she gets.
Well, I guess
That's from just certain
it's
things.
commensurate with how complicated a site plan is. If
Right.
it's something small, then it doesn't, not necessary, but if it's
I think that's
something
all she's
large.
asking for.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously the more complex,
Right.
you know, you could spend more time, and it depends on the quality of the plan that comes in. You know, there's times that, you know, we've looked at plans 3 and 4 times, whether the applicant isn't addressing all the comments, we have to continue to look at it until it's right, wherever the case may be. But hopefully, you know, it's done in 1 or 2 reviews, and you know, it's a set that's ready to look at.
Right.
We usually provide a comment letter addressing, you know, all these items have been addressed, or these things are still deficient, or here are our recommendations.
Any other questions? All right, I guess we'll move on to,
The road ordinance?
Oh, road ordinance.
So
It's just-
unfortunately, I don't have that for you this evening.
Oh.
I do want to get that to you ahead of time, so you have a chance to review it prior to a meeting. That is being currently reviewed internally. Egworty Fraser for a QA, so just want to make sure we're providing a good solid ordinance for you guys to review. But that will be coming your way shortly.
So would you want to talk about that at the meeting at the 24th or?
we probably could.
Yeah.
Could you make it the 24th? Um,
I don't want to I don't know what, this is kind of on the fly here. I don't know. What do you want to do?
let us think about that because the Giffords is gonna take a long time, and then if you're at the end of it, it might be, I don't know, let's think about that, but you would be available for the 24th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Make sure you.
I'm
one of
ready
us
to get
are
a hold of you
available.
on
Meetings what, the
that.
week after?
Yeah.
Not that.
Yeah, and teaming with, Griffles right now is a great opportunity to, if there's anything here that doesn't make sense or you don't like the way it flows, I mean, this is just a summary of what's already there. Now's the time to change it, make any modifications that you see fit.
You sure placed it well enough for us to understand, so we thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
I just want to make one
Oh, yeah.
comment if it'd be appropriate. There's three of us here that were involved in a major project preliminary review several years ago. It was going to be on 70 acres on 72 farmland, 30 acres for, I think, 18 townhouses that each had like 15 or 20 apartments in a 300-unit campground. A major corporation. This was Funhouse. It was very well done, but we just told them you would double the size of our township for people, and we simply could not deal with it. We didn't have the resources or anything, and they withdrew the application. That was about 3-4 years ago. Kim was there, Mike was there,
Mhm.
I was there.
All right, well, I like the layout. So that's something we can definitely discuss, and I really like this checklist.
The checklist is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wondering, I mean, do we really require soil borings? The engineer can't just say that they assumed, PSF or that's all. I guess it depends on the size.
Topo as well. I mean, that would
Right.
cost money to produce that.
Yeah,
So-
I was just kind of surprised to see.
And maybe that's an area we should look at in terms of what's required.
Mhm. Okay.
All right, let's move on to the ROWG.
Okay, so we've had 2 meetings. Our October meeting was after the planning commission meeting. But at that meeting, we reviewed the research on the other community STR ordinances and began to start thinking about survey questions. And then at the November meeting, which was last night, we had Keith present a set of topics for which we'll be writing white papers. And I think you've all got a copy of the most recent version
It's
of
here.
that. And the idea is that this gives us a structure within which to work and to easily provide you with information and data that is more digestible than this, which is a lot to take in. So this information, for instance, will probably be put into a spreadsheet, and broken down by community and by, what their ordinances look like, what their fees look like, all that sort of stuff. And these are, I don't know if I'm stepping on your feet here.
No, go right
Okay.
ahead.
So these white papers are intended to be updated as we continue our research. So I'll be presenting those to you at each one of our PC meetings with the understanding that, subtle things might have changed, and we'll be tracking the changes to them as we get into the research in more depth. So for instance, the STR operators and Whitewater Township citizen topics at the bottom of the list, we'll probably not see anything in there until we've had the survey results returned and, and had workshops. So basically, the white papers will be a synopsis of our research, so that it's easier for the PC members to review and then use these documents to begin writing the ordinance. The first round of white papers will be due by December 20th, so I'll be presenting those to you at our January meeting. Okay, so I have two requests for money. And the first is the MSU Extension Service is going to be holding the short-term rental workshop that I think Carl and Keith attended. They're going to be,
Too.
yeah, what's that?
Denise did too.
Okay, and they're going to be doing it on Zoom. And so I've asked the members of the ROWG to, if they have the time, to please sign up for that. And I'd like them to be reimbursed, and it's $25 per person. So do I make a motion? I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission reimburse the ROWG members at $25 each for the MSU Extension Short-Term Rental Workshop fee.
I second that.
We need a roll call.
Is that a roll call? Yep.
Okay.
It's money.
Carl,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Sadie,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Green, yes. And then my second request is also with the MSU Extension, they're going to provide two services to us. One is at no charge, and that is that they're going to review the survey questions for bias. So we'll be submitting our questions to them and working with them to create the survey. And then the request for compensation is for one or two workshops, and we haven't decided yet how many we need to have. But the base fee is $800, and that covers, I gave you my email string regarding that, which of course I can't find now. But the $800 covers the research, the planning, creating the agenda, the activities, all the background work that they'll do, and then they'll provide us with a report afterwards. Can you find that?
Yes, I've got mine.
Okay. And then it's $275. So on top of that, it's $275 per session, and that covers the facilitator's fees, and including travel, her time, and any supplies that she needs to bring with her. So I'm not quite sure how to word that. Maybe I just do it for one workshop, and then if we decide to hold another, I would make a motion at that point. Does that make
I was
sense?
gonna say, is the two workshops identical, just on different times to make it convenient for people, or are they two?
No, they'd be different.
Maybe,
Yeah, similar to what we did for the master plan. So modify the format.
okay.
Yeah. And so one workshop, for instance, might take place before the survey, and one workshop might take place after the survey results are in, and sort of in response to the survey results to dig deeper.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So,
I think both of them are probably needed, so I don't know why we wouldn't
Yeah.
just approve both of them.
okay.
Is it 8?
It's 800 plus 275 twice.
Okay, that's what
The
I
800
understood
is
it.
only once.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so then let me just check my math. Okay, so then I'm making a motion to request, I'm making a motion for $1,350 to cover two workshops provided by the MSU Extension Service. And these would be community workshops, facilitated by the MSU Extension and supported by the ROWG as well as the PC.
So does that include advertisements for the?
No, it doesn't include advertisements. I don't have a budget for that.
We did some ads in the Elk Rapids News, so we might have to
Right.
kind of get that number up a little bit. to
Okay,
cover
so
it.
should I hold off on the motion until?
No,
I
I
have
think I'd like to
that?
take it to the board next week.
Yeah.
You know, so we get that authorized and
Do you remember what we paid last time for the Elk Rapids and
I'd have to look. I
any idea?
wouldn't be that.
For the newspaper, is that what you're asking?
I know we had those small signs.
It's like 200. I would.
It's a couple $100 for a newsletter in the Elk Rapids News, and
Okay,
it's not real pricey.
so what are we comfortable with then?
1,700?
I'd like $2,500. Let's, maybe we might buy some signs as well.
Right.
So
Okay, so then I'd like to make a motion that we ask the board for approval of $2,500 for 2 workshops, including advertising and signs.
A second, Richard.
Okay, Randy,
yes,
Sadie,
Yes, sorry.
Carl,
Yes.
Keith?
Yes.
Reen, yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sorry, sure. Yep. And that is it for my report.
I'd just like to briefly go over this if that's all right. So this is kind of threefold, the reason I did this. Rena and I worked on this together to give them a structure, also to document everything that's going on. So the whole idea is that these white papers will be connected to all the research below. So when they're finally done, you'll get the final white paper with all the research underneath it, and that'll come to the board here for our review. So you can look at the white papers and read it, and it condenses it for you. But if you want to verify something in that, you'll have the documentation underneath it to go verify it. And then when this process is over, that whole packet will be filed, as this is how we came to the process. It's how we went through the process, and how we came to our decision.
so are we looking at a survey here in the next few months? Is that, and then workshops shortly thereafter, right around that time?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm still working on how the survey will be administered, and the security of it so that people can't complete a survey more than once.
So last time around, we used Networks Northwest to help us with that, and putting it online and do all that and stuff. I don't know if that's relevant for that. Those same concerns, those same reasons were brought up about people responding to the survey more than once, and
Right,
then having the tabulations, the written ones done somewhere else, so no one could say that anyone locally was messing with the numbers or anything. So,
yeah, and I'm assuming that we'll need to do an online version and a hard copy that could be picked up and returned here at the township hall for anyone who is uncomfortable doing the online version.
yep. Okay, so there might be another ask later on if there's
Yeah.
another.
Yep.
Okay.
This is definitely coming in a lot cheaper than the master plan did.
Mhm. Well, we're not there yet.
All right, does anybody have any questions about the ROWG at this point?
Thank you for your work.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep,
No, then
they seem pretty excited and uh,
is there additional information put into the booklet on the ad here?
That I posted online.
I couldn't.
I know you couldn't get in there. I wasn't sure
Yes.
exactly why. I don't know what.
It needed
message-
a password that I don't have.
Yeah.
But I just won't have any more been put in the book here, and it's in the township, then
I have,
uh,
I just received the report on Charlevoix, which I still need to print out and put in the books. Yeah.
like it come, it's additional information in it.
Yep.
It was, yeah, you people are really doing a good job. I enjoyed when you interviewed one of the townships and got their input.
All right, well, let's move on then. You should have seen in your packet where we had response from the attorneys on the first review of the wineries and tasting rooms ordinance. Everybody get a chance to review that?
Mhm.
Comments on that?
I'm confused. I didn't see that in the packet. Is that?
Was it in
Oh,
the
I
packet or
printed-
separate?
I printed it separately. I don't think
Yeah.
it was in the packet, actually.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, did I?
Email,
I got the email, but I didn't scroll through the bottom of the packet.
yeah. There's a separate email.
Oh, I guess I did not put that in there.
Look at my email.
That just came, if I'm not mistaken, though, didn't it? I knew, I saw.
That did, it did came, oh, that's right, it came after the
It came after the packet was
packet.
produced,
That's correct, yes,
so it couldn't have been put in the packet.
right.
I've not looked at it myself.
So anyways, I did give it to Sadie to look at.
Yeah, I think you sent it to me on the 31st.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think they had some good comments in there. Anybody get a chance to review it?
I did a little bit. But I mean, if everybody didn't see it.
Couple things I didn't quite understand was that
Yeah, there it is.
when they talked about hold up here again, talked about the showing I'm sorry, I just can't pull it out of my head right now. Some kind of documentation prior to,
There was one from our attorneys. It's in their comments.
Document,
Was it about the existing buildings?
no, it was about the rules themselves inside of the,
well, the merchandise,
yeah. So
it's at the beginning. Merchandise sales? Is that what you're talking about?
What's that?
The merchandise sales?
No,
No.
and I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull this up here.
Yeah.
I forgot that it didn't come until after them.
I don't know if I just hadn't noticed this before, but the addition of brewery and distilleries.
It's been in there.
Yeah, that's just me skipping over that, I guess.
Yeah. And mostly because a lot of that just goes hand in hand on what license you get through the state of Michigan. Like, can you make beer? Can you make, most of them are licensed for both, a lot of wineries and breweries.
Okay.
So it wasn't abnormal just to
Definition.
put those together.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're right. It was about the merchandise sales.
Yeah.
They talk about.
Just like
carefully-
Town Line, you know, they make hard cider and they make wine, but then I could have the ability if they want to make a beer, but the only thing that really changes is how much you have to make on your, like, it's very
Food truck?
specific on your own, yeah. It has to do, like, the state license and regulates all of that. The beer is a little bit more restrictive of how much you have to make actually right on your property and all that, so the whole process, I guess, but just trying not to limit somebody if they want to have beer and wine
Right.
made from their products that they grow.
So what I'd like to do with this is, being that we didn't get it for, on time for the packet,
Mhm.
is for everybody to go over it. I'll put it in the packet for next month and have written suggestions for that meeting, or maybe even if you could send them to me ahead of time. So that next month we can actually talk about revamping this and coming up with something.
Mhm. I
Does that
did
make sense?
see, yeah, I noticed a lot of the redlining is taking out a lot of the wordiness that we
Right.
have,
Mhm.
which surprised me, to keep things more simple. But I think that is where you kind of can get in the muck, I guess. But, and then he does say something in there about making like an extensive list of what events are included.
Right.
So maybe we could all work on that, jotting those down, because if that has to be, you want to think, it sounds like you want to think of everything possible. So,
And along with that, if we're gonna allow events, shall not be conducted more than 8 calendar days in any 30-day period, that's pretty much, like either one full week or every weekend. Because he talked about temporary structures and how long they can remain in
Right,
place.
yeah.
And if you're gonna be having an event every weekend, I'm not seeing the tent coming up and going.
Yeah,
down, you
yeah,
know,
definitely
so-
could talk about that and for sure.
You're talking about your email on the 30th that you included these two,
Yes.
Yeah.
The word version has the red lines in it.
yeah.
Yep.
I.
And then with regard to the merchandise, it just sounds like you can't limit them to winery related merchandise.
Right.
Which that's what I was kind of understanding when I first started this process with some of the research I did, that you can't limit that.
Right.
So that's where, yeah, it gets tricky. I feel like he took a lot of the words out that we had that cause more like restriction on certain areas. But then other areas was like, no, you need to be more detailed. So,
Yeah. But I think replacing winery related with incidental merchandise makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's still,
yeah.
it's still saying it's sort of related to what you're
Mhm.
doing.
And also like when he talks about the food, the sale of food, as long as you have the permits necessary, which makes sense. Like
Mhm.
if you have a commercial kitchen and you are permitted, then who are we to say like you can't serve that, I guess.
I noticed they said on the Mark II that the 20 acres, they crossed out within Whitewater Township.
Yeah, that was our whole goal, was to keep
Right.
that. So I think we have to talk about that too.
I didn't know if that was because of what happened on the
Yeah, I can
peninsula
ask,
or,
I can ask them to,
Yeah, he
expand
talked
on that.
about it a little bit in the letter part of it, but it was still confusing to
sense,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, if we can clarify that, why he took that out. But
All right, does that sound good then?
Mhm.
Look it all over good this month. Try to have something written for the next agenda of your comments and changes or,
Okay.
good.
I have one question about the packet, the Article 13 special uses, why is that in here?
That was in relation to
Is it from,
one of my, it
oh,
was in relation to one
additional
of, yes,
conditions of special uses, okay,
right. That was just in case you wanted
okay.
to look what it said. All right. All right. Hear anything else, Sadie, on that?
nope,
Does that sound okay? Good plan?
yeah.
Okay. I have no update for the outside ordinance venue. Under new business, I just wanted to point out that we will be reviewing the bylaws in the January meeting.
This number.
Yes, and we will add the item we talked about earlier to that change for the review. Next is
Excuse me.
yes,
Could you repeat that for me? You said it was a January meeting, correct?
yes, the bylaw review will be in the January
Right,
meeting.
okay. And then I didn't quite catch what you said after that.
That will also include the item that we talked about earlier about the bylaw with the PC moving forward, any special.
Okay, thank you.
Or
Got it.
hearings, public
Thanks.
hearings. Okay. All right, if you want to take a look at, it's sent here for the Hogarth's amendment, they sent forward a amendment to amend the fence structure from 6 foot to 7 foot. And I wanted to talk about that in a second. Let me find it here. Okay. On page 19, Hogarth's has running a business out of there that they have not applied for a special use permit yet. For a major home occupation, and that's their bug, their pesticide and bug company. I think it's just called Hogarth Extermination, I think. I'm not sure what the name of the company is, but
Hogarth's Pest
the whole
Control.
point is that the zoning administrator would like to see them come in compliance first with their home business, which should bring to here to get their special use permit. And at the same time, we can talk about their request for amendment on the fence height from 6 foot to 7 foot. This will also give us time for each of us to research that.
I've done some research. East Bay Township does not require a permit for anything under 7 feet. Acme Township allows up to 7 feet. So we have two townships right around us already. I don't know, why we say 6 feet, well, how long it's been in there. Yeah, so that's what I found out from our neighboring townships allow 7 feet.
So I guess my question to you is, do we want to try to bring them in compliance first before we look at this amendment, or should we be moving this amendment forward?
What is out of compliance?
They're operating a home business without the special use.
Oh. Oh, it seems like a straightforward thing to
Right.
get in compliance. I was wondering, is this not something that could be done with a variance? I'm wondering why they want to change the zoning ordinance.
It was explained to me that
You could do it at a variance, so whether our, would be approved or not. I'm looking at this from the standpoint of our ordinance are out of sync with our other neighboring townships.
Yeah.
Is there any unique reason or why, or that's one of the things that we are supposed to look at with our other townships. So that if this is gonna, nobody's come in to talk about, it has to go to a public hearing. There might be
Right.
some people have, some good reason. My thing is we should, my initial opinion is, we should make it 7 feet, but the other issue of the home business, I wasn't totally aware of that. I hadn't looked into it. That's another issue. What does this have anything to do with?
I get the whole thing from 6 foot to 7 foot because you buy a 6 foot panel and it's not always at 6 foot when it's, at the ground level because the ground moves and
that was
so.
that was the
gate
point they're
issue
making. And,
as well.
things are different today than they were 20, 30 years ago. Things get bigger. So that's maybe something that, we look into and just change.
I don't think we want our zoning administrator going to tell people, well, your fence is an inch too high or, right. So, but my question to you is,
I guess I'm confused about a number of things here. So this says this was filed in July.
yes,
Is that because she was trying to get them in compliance
Yes.
before? Oh, I see.
and I had talked to her about this and she was gonna try to give me compliance and we'd move this forward, but that still has not happened yet. so.
Why are we not in compliance?
Sorry, what?
They don't have a special use permit for their home business.
Right.
So,
And the 7-foot fence is an issue on that property, but they're also wanting, this amendment though changes the ordinance for the whole township.
Right.
Correct.
So it's really two separate issues in my
Right.
mind. I mean, they can, my own circumstance doesn't encourage me or prevent me from proposing an amendment to the ordinance. I guess I'm trying to follow that logic. Not there.
I think the logic is we haven't been able to do anything to get them to come into compliance.
Well, I mean, whether this amendment goes through as written or not, doesn't matter. They're still not in compliance with their home occupation, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
so they'll be non-compliant with their home occupation and with the fence they installed? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's what I don't know.
We're just picking and choosing which one we're enforcing? I mean, I guess I'm confused.
It sounded like there was a garage that was removed and,
The whole issue
Right.
is the fence was put up, which is, I guess, at the 6-foot level, but they put and this is, I feel almost bad even talking about this. But we will.
Yeah.
They put a gate up and the gate was 6 foot, but then they put wheels underneath it and I raised it 4 inches.
So we're talking about 4 inches.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because the zoning says 6 foot. Right? So I am really in total agreement to raise this. I don't think we should be squabbling over inches.
I feel,
My question to you is the placement of this. Do we go ahead and do this now and then keep trying to get them in compliance with their business? Or do we get them in compliance with their business?
I think you
They're separate.
do
Because
both. You
they are
you
bringing
try
up-
to get them in compliance, whether this amendment goes through or not. You know, there's
I get
a
this
bigger
for
issue than-
years of doing
at
that.
a few inches on a fence, the issue of not being in compliance with your home occupation requirements is, to me, a bigger issue than, I mean, I don't think the two are tied together.
Mhm.
So I'm
If-
not quite
if-
understanding what you're saying.
If this was approved, she'd still have, or he would still
Still
have
not be in compliance,
a
right?
Right.
non-compliant home occupation.
Right.
So
So
two
should we
issues.
go ahead and move this forward is what I guess I'm asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
right?
I think
That's-
so.
Yep.
We have
Yeah,
to have a public
So we'll have to have
hearing
public hearing on it,
Yeah,
and-
so,
so if there's reason to raise it to 7, then
and they paid the fee, right?
Yes.
$300 fee, so we have an obligation to do something with it, and, then move it on.
yeah,
down.
it's changing one number. It's not a complex amendment. You're
Right.
changing
Right.
one number from 6 foot to 7.
Now, do you feel on a public hearing that we're gonna need a bigger space? I can't believe there'd be a lot of
No,
opposition to this, right?
I wouldn't think so. You're
Okay.
relaxing the requirements for one.
What's that?
You're relaxing the requirements rather than,
I know, I'm just asking.
I know, I'm
asking.
just talking to,
Okay.
I
We
had
will-
heard about this, but I didn't know that it was actually filed back in
Yeah.
July.
So we'll set a public hearing for this. And the way it reads, it's actually they do have the maximum height is 7 feet. And that's the neighboring townships have that, and I really don't see a problem with it, so. We can
Okay,
discuss
you
it
you
after
already
the-
researched
the
that?
township, says, sure that they can, fences can be up to, 7 feet, 84 inches, and, the East Bay Township says you don't need a permit for a fence under 7 feet. I read it to two of them a couple days ago.
Okay,
I don't know if I have it on my computer in there.
any other questions on that then? Not, we'll move on.
Before you move on, do you need a motion to set the public hearing or no?
The way it's written, I don't believe so, but I guess it wouldn't hurt just to do it.
Well, Deb would have to put the ad in the paper for that.
Right.
So that could be done for December's meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's plenty of time to do that.
You know, you'd hear from Deb and possibly from people on the property,
Right.
and talk to some, side, know if there's anything else that I don't know about.
Do we need to make a motion to say we're gonna have a public hearing though?
According to our bylaws, we do.
Yeah.
Make a
Thank
motion
you.
that we set a public hearing for the Hogarth
Amendment to,
amendment number.
No,
It's right here. 2025-5, KCA 2025-5.
I second the motion.
Second. Um,
Oh, roll call, sorry.
Yeah,
Are you including a date in that?
will be for December,
Oh,
um,
okay. Sorry, I'm
December
Meeting.
3rd.
third. Sorry, I missed that part.
Meeting, yes.
Thank you.
We need 15-day notice, so that should be, we still have enough time.
Yeah,
We should.
Yeah, got 30 days. Right.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Stratton, yes. Robel,
yes.
Merchant,
Yes.
Milnick.
Yes.
I'll get this information to Deb if she isn't already listening. Okay. All right, next meeting is December 3rd, 2025, 7 PM. Leave another spot here for public comment. Anybody would like to come up and speak?
There's no pen up here. But I'll have one. Randy Steelman, Crisp Road. I just wanted to tell you guys, thanks for some common sense stuff there. The fence thing is, ridiculous and stuff. Another thing could be done about that fence, maybe while you guys are working on it, is just get rid of the need for a permit or anything under 7 feet, like most places have, and it's pretty silly these days. People like fences, it turns out. Also your guys' thing, I'm a builder, so I deal with the zoning people all the time, townships all over the place. If you can do anything to make it quicker and easier, it's a lot better for the developer, the builder, the property owners. It would be great if you can figure out how to speed up the when it takes a month to get an answer for something you ask, and then the next month now I have an answer. Okay, now I'll submit next month. And if I love your idea of, hey, meet up with one of the township people. Yeah, you've answered our question. Let's move this along. It's great. Figure out a way to do it. This is really good. Pro that. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Yeah, I want to compliment you on your handling of the ordinance request change. You earlier in the meeting discussed why the PC is supposed to set a public hearing and why it's supposed to. This is why. There is a public perception that once you hold a public hearing, this is a done deal. It is accepted by the PC and you are recommending that this is a good idea. That's why we had that intentionally in the bylaws, so that we took an amendment that was proposed, did exactly what you did tonight, discussed it, evaluated it before we put it in front of the public, because we never wanted to present something that we were all against as well. Or at least we wanted to know what page we were on. We said, okay, we're holding a public hearing because we have to, but we have serious concerns about it. It allows you to get ahead of it and not create an unnecessary train wreck. A little bit of history on fences. The Planning Commission put forward a recommendation to the board to eliminate all but 2 of those requirements for fences. 7 foot is what we requested, and nothing under 7 feet was supposed to have a request. This has been in front of the public in the last 10 years. I couldn't give you the year. It was universally folks were in favor of it, like Randy mentioned, the board actually removed that from our suggested amendment and pulled it. So I think you're gonna have nothing but support for this particular item. I did want to voice concern. We should not be using someone's lawful request in July as a bargaining chip to try to bully someone to do something else we want. These are two entirely different issues. If this gentleman came in and paid his money to try to resolve one issue by requesting a zoning change, that shouldn't be held up. That should have gone forward, and it should have gone forward 3 months ago. So I just wanted to share my concern with that. It's just not a good procedure. It's not a good policy, and it's not good for community relations. We're already having enough issues with some questionable areas we have in our ordinance being pushed. That was my last item. Our lighting ordinance, it mandates all security lightings on a motion sensor. We are in deer, bear, raccoon, possum country. That has not been an enforced ordinance because it's ludicrous. There are a couple line items that really need to be addressed, and especially if we're going to be taking complaints on this and enforcing these parts of the ordinance. Technically, if you get into the weeds in our ordinance, it is illegal to have a boat, RV, shore station, shed, ice shanty, or extra car in your yard at all. These are not reasonable items to be enforcing. They need to be yanked or at least not enforced in the meantime. Some of this is getting a little ridiculous, like 4 inches on a fence. Thank you.
Back now.
I agree 100% with everything Kim just said. Two different issues with the Hogarths, the fence thing, the whole thing. I agree completely. I have one suggestion, the ROWG group, you talked about for the surveys, it either being electronic or come in, pick one up and bring it back and drop it off. That doesn't work for people who don't live here if they don't do it electronically. And I'm probably the only dinosaur in the township who still doesn't do things electronically. But traditionally, we've mailed out the surveys so that we know every single resident gets one and every single resident knows what's going on. Because every single resident does not read the paper where we're going to post this stuff. I mean, I talk to people all the time that don't read the Elk Rapids News and don't see our public notices. It's just part of it. So traditionally, we've mailed them out. I think that we should stick with that. Thank you. You guys are doing a good job.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else? So,
We'll add one thing.
all right.
If you're that Mike can hear me from the back of the room. If you're south of M72, you don't get the paper. So that is something that if you're not aware, most of the township gets it automatically free. It comes in their mailbox all the time. But I think 72 is the cutoff,
Yeah,
and
I don't get it.
you don't get it at all. So thanks.
All right. That's it. Okay, I've closed public comment. Anybody else have anything they want to discuss? Comment, you, Carl?
Yes, hopefully you've all been reading in Record Eagle about the Peninsula Township lawsuit. And you know, they're negotiating. I kind of thought all it's going to have to come to that. But in the middle of that article, page 2, the township supervisor, I don't know if you got her comment, she said she's thinking of hiring a planner. My God, 10 years, they haven't had a planner. That was one of the first things. Nobody's here.
There's
that when
a
I
whole
got
story there I could
appointed,
tell you
noticed
sometime
that
if you
we
wanna hear
needed
it.
a plan to help write the master plan, because the other one, in my opinion, that having had a lot of learning experience, that was basically a history lesson. And it wasn't that the people didn't try, but when he came in, there were things that are required. I think the master road plan, we didn't have some of the things that were required, except nobody ever complained. We didn't get, called in by the state or anything, but it's what Randy here, and he's done a lot more for us on that, and revising our zoning ordinances to, talk the same language. And now we have this other company, so we're ahead of the game. And I was just stunned that they had not had a planner.
I'm not going there.
You're not gonna go?
I guess look at all the trouble.
We could spend the next 3 hours talking about this if you.
All right. All right, Sadie, you got anything?
Just when she had brought up about the newspaper and that if you're on this side of 72, but also like if you're under the age of 30, you don't read the paper either anymore. Those papers just go right, I'm telling you. So I think,
Point.
I don't know what you guys have planned for that, exactly how the survey is going to work yet, but I do think it's very important that we somehow make sure that we're advertising it through social media, through the school districts, because it's really important to get the people that are younger in our community involved. And that's, I mean, just being on this board, and I tell people like, oh, I'm on the planning commission. They look at me like, what's that? So I think it's important that we try to work that, and I'm happy to help with figuring that out if you don't have anybody in the group that's willing or able to figure that out, but we can work together hopefully to really try to get that generation, the younger generation involved, because everybody's saying it's like it's us people with school age kids that are living in this community that are trying to do rentals or figure that out and are upset by this. So I think it's important that they know that they have a way to have their voice heard other than the old school ways, because a lot of them don't know, just from talking to different people. Like, it's just not, this is not like a
Right.
thing that's shared on social media very easily, so finding those outlets, I think, is really important.
Okay,
So with that, a question I had, but I haven't brought it up yet because I didn't know how to approach it, but
Doesn't sound good. Yeah.
no, actually, I think it is good unless I'm just totally daft at this, but what would be the reason we couldn't have a Facebook group or an X group that just was used just for putting out information?
I have no idea.
Just thought, I'm just throwing this out there because
Are there any,
There are a couple, I think, are out there, and I'm not a Facebook person, so I don't.
I'm talking about for the planning commission.
Oh, the planning commission.
I mean, are
But
there
then
any
you could-
townships that do this already that are vocal on social media? I have no idea what the regulations and stuff are for that.
There is a township, the fire department's running the Whitewater Township one right now, so
oh,
you might check with Josh on getting that posting. I know there's a few other ones that are out there run by individuals.
But it
But
would be
can there-
nice if we had a platform where we could put,
Yeah, can there be an official Whitewater Township one or no?
There is an official, there is, I'm not sure what the fire chief has. I would check with him. He has something.
well, we could have an official Whitewater Township Planning Commission.
I think we could do within that. I don't know. This is not my
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It should do within our,
But we can look
we have
at
the
it.
Whitewater Township website.
Because there's one for the
There's
park.
Sub, group on that.
But I mean, unless they're willing to give us access to that,
Oh, yeah.
we can't get on there and put out a blast message saying, hey, we're
Right.
gonna have a survey.
The
here's
best,
information
yeah,
on
the
it.
best we
Let's
can
just
do
check
is
with Josh.
share it
Yeah.
individually.
I think there's something if we talk with Josh.
mhm.
Right.
But sometimes too, like, even creating a post and sharing it individually how that massively spreads, you know, like,
And so if we create a post, because I'm very familiar with Facebook,
yeah.
create a post and then to each one of us, and then we each share it to all one of our friends, and then slowly everybody will be following the commission then. And then everything we put out there is just gonna be one more avenue for the young people to maybe get involved. So there, I finally said it.
I also think the schools is a
They handle
good,
that?
Yeah, maybe we'll talk to Josh and see what he says, and
yeah.
I'll bring back what I got in my next meeting, but
I kind of want to run that past our legal people too, that we would be perceived as talking for the township.
no,
Yeah.
we'll be perceived for talking for the planning commission.
Yeah, but that's us saying that, but the other people looking at it, you know, would the township board agree with this, whatever we said? Or I don't know.
I suppose it depends on the post. I mean, what I'm thinking you're talking about is just like, you know, an update. It's just information that we're putting out there.
Not doing
It's
anything
not-
like agendas or anything like that. It's just for blast messages.
So the survey though, you're saying is gonna be a link, correct, is what you're thinking?
Mhm.
Like even to be able to share that link through
Right.
social media. So if I say I shared the link and, you know, 20 of my friends that live locally were like, oh, I'll do it, click, I'm on here, and they click it. Like if we can make it so that that's how it can be done.
Right.
That's
But
gonna be
there is
huge.
gonna be a number that each person is assigned so that
Right,
they
the
have to
security of
enter
it.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
In order to access it. So I think you can get, like, the link can take you to the site, but
Mhm.
then you have to, you know, enter a number,
Get your
an
number.
I think the
identification.
way we handled that before is we separated those responses, that there was a way that if we didn't know where it came from, then it was one group of surveys, and then there was the ones with the numbers on it that we knew that were mailed out. So there was a way to merge them together or separate them,
Mhm.
so. Because you're right, I mean, somebody can get onto a website,
Yeah.
draw a survey, they may live in Detroit.
Right.
But all the surveys are on the township website. They're already there,
That's
I mean,
what-
so, and then our meeting schedules are already there.
Right.
There could be, I would think, some kind of a sub thing in there, just say Whitewater Township Planning Commission news. Yeah, so just news, not
Right.
not any opinions of what we each, you know, want to say about a particular issue. That's not a good idea. But I don't know. I think it's pretty much already there.
The problem with that is not many of the younger generation is gonna go to the Whitewater Township page and look for stuff. They're just not. But if they see it, you know, in their feeds,
It's gotta be a scrolled
yeah.
site.
that's a-
I don't, I look at the township website. I don't look at money.
Well, you and I do, but we might be the only people that.
Yeah,
do.
I still have a touchstone and chisel.
Right, right.
I'm called a, what is it? A mossback. I'm a mossback.
I know you had a comment on it. I want to go ahead and let you say it.
Encourage you, Carl, and Rick says, putting out even something that is innocent on behalf of the PC is not legal. The only person who can speak for the township, even on something benign, and it doesn't matter what it is the township supervisor. So Linda can put out and do everything that you're saying. You can all email a friend as a private individual, a citizen, but please check on the legalities, like Carl said.
Yep. I don't know if that's.
We would certainly
necessarily
check the
true.
legalities of this and then,
Oh, yeah.
that we are not gonna do anything that we
Um,
do, but there is a
Right.
Facebook.
So one last question.
Yes.
Then, on this topic, I feel like the road signs are quite effective. Does anybody else agree with me on that?
I noticed them.
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Maybe something a little bit
Yeah,
bigger, maybe.
we took them down right away, and
right.
they were a little pricey though, if I remember right. They were like $300-400 for,
Where'd you
Couple
order
bucks.
them from?
um, well, I think the last batch was some Staples.
So I have ordered some in the past and honestly, I priced everywhere and Amazon was the cheapest and
Oh.
great quality. There's a million on there, but the ones I had found, and I got them twice, 3 times the
wow.
size, so
Okay.
I was surprised by that, but try different
Does
routes.
that include the wires and everything?
Yeah, the whole thing came, was nice.
Wow.
Okay.
Amazon delivers everything.
The next day nowadays. crazy.
Maureen, did you have anything?
No, I don't have anything. Oh, I did want to, just make a request that, under the ROWG report, for unfinished business, if we could just add, that what we're working on right now, which is, regarding STR, so
Yes,
that
I
the
have a
public
note for that.
knows that we're, in case they want to come
Right.
to the meeting, they know that we're going to be talking about it.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we're gonna break a record here or not, but
Look at us.
Good job.
all right. I guess I make a motion that we close this meeting at 9:15.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Carried.